Welcome back to Derailed. JJ Lahey and Jake Schyvinck in the house. Jake, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate those of you who are tuning in right at the start. Apologies that we are significantly later than normal, but we appreciate you guys being flexible. We've got some, just topics upon topics upon topics to cover. I did love seeing people talking in the chat about Packers draft needs. Love seeing that. Only because we are a draft-centric YouTube channel here, all right? Normally, I'm not the kind of person to endorse thinking about Packers draft needs during the middle of a season when we're competing for a football or a Super Bowl. But we love the draft so much here on this channel that we appreciate you guys looking ahead to the draft. That having been said, Preston Smith, no longer with us, requested a trade, got one. He is now a Steeler, of course. How you guys feeling about that? Smith Bros era mostly done in Green Bay. We're going to face Za'Darius again, because who doesn't miss that guy?
Yeah.
Jake, your thoughts?
On Za'Darius or...
Mostly on Za'Darius, yeah.
Mostly on
but
Za'Darius.
also on the hole that Preston leaves on the roster, and thoughts on our young guys stepping up.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it quite a bit last night on the live, and we talked a lot of draft on the live last night. It feels like the rare scenario where it's a 6'5", 265 player who's actually better in a 3-4. You don't usually get those guys very often. Usually those are your guys in the 240s. You look at your Dallas Turners from this past draft. You look at, the Will McDonalds, where it's like they need to be rushing from wide 9. And maybe Preston Smith just needs that little bit of extra runway to do what he does best. And you've seen a lot of that last year if you looked kind of, and I know Pittsburgh Steelers fans were combing that film a lot yesterday and today. That it just when you watch him against guys like even Darisaw, who's been phenomenal for Minnesota, you see that extra level of runway mattering for him, and that's got to be part of the problem for the Packers pass rush as a whole, especially on the outside, right? I think the interior is okay in terms of generating pressure, but I do think the interior has its own issues that they'll have to address at some point. But it does seem like that Van Ness and Gary, and it's just very weird that these big dudes are struggling to play defensive end when they're at the requisite size to play defensive end. And there are different responsibilities, right? I think we kind of just assume that guys can just make that switch super easily, especially, somebody who's like Rashawn Gary, who has played in it for a long time. And then Van Ness, who will now be in the third different defensive system in 3 years, including his final year in college. So there's, a lot that he has to take in stride, right? And he's going to be relied on a lot more now going forward. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to give us a really nice look at, can Gary find it? And I think he's starting to a little bit more. Can Van Ness find it where I feel like he did last year when he was allowed to put his hand in the dirt? So I'm excited to see what this unit does on the edge, but I really am thrilled with what Green Bay is going to potentially have with options coming up next April. And I know it's no fun to be looking at that already because this is a team that wants to contend. But if we start seeing this throughout November where it's like, yeah, well, where's the pass rush? Where's the pass rush? And it's still becoming an issue. It's like, okay, well, Hafley's only going to be you can't blitz all the time. So it's going to put a little more pressure on Hafley to do a lot, with other guys bringing it there for help. And if you have a good secondary, which I think Green Bay does when everybody's healthy, you might be able to get away with it, but it's a whole different deal in the playoffs. And you saw it against Detroit this past week. You make mistakes, they don't. You're not winning. And so, yeah, it's just going to be – November is going to be a really nice evaluation period. This is, stretch of the season for everybody in the NFC North. It's tough. There's not going to be a week off down the stretch for anybody. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how it plays out.
I suppose we do have to talk about this Lions game. I mean, I don't imagine that anybody walked away from that game feeling like, oh, man, we really got our butts handed to us by the Lions. I think every Packers fan looked at that and said, look at that. Packers killed themselves. 1,000 cuts, one cut at a time, or one yellow flag at a time. Felt like we had a penalty or a drop on 4 out of 5 plays.
Yeah, execution was not clean.
Brutal.
It was rough, and it's like it's not even necessarily the same guys, right? Tucker Kraft key drop that hurt a ton, as sure-handed as he usually is. But you're getting similar things, right? You're seeing Watson not track the ball properly. Wicks still
crazy. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that's a big emphasis point. And Wicks is still dropping passes, even though they're kind of behind him. I don't care at this point. Like, there's a thing this is a term we use, and people know this, called catch radius. When you have a lot of it, that's helpful for a quarterback who's dealing with injury, right? And has that tendency to be like, hey, I like to throw off my back foot and on the move a lot. And, sometimes they're not going to be right where you think it needs to be. And you need to be able to kind of make up for that. Yeah, it's a struggle right now. And then, just watching the W's of Watson and Wicks play right now, it makes me, start to, okay, all right, day 3 receivers, next year's draft, what are we looking at here? Because it cannot keep happening. And I know they're going to be patient, right? This is year 2 for Wicks. We got, plenty of people got ahead of themselves with Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams got out of the hole, right, in terms of how bad those drops got, and he figured it out. But it's just, the same mistakes. And I feel like we were having this conversation last year, but they just weren't very good, right? This is a good team. Last year it was just oh, this is awful. This is atrocious what's going on right now. But it just feels like they are, and there's so many data points on every play, which leads to so many data points over every game. We're 11 players versus 11, your assignment, make your play. But those compound, those start to add up, right? Right tackle miss a block, receiver drop a pass, all of this. It's going to shut down the entire operation if it continues. And yeah, they got to find their way. It's got to be better. There's just there can't be any excuses anymore, especially off this bye week. It needs to be sharp. I know the Bears aren't playing well. Don't care. It's on the road. It's at Chicago. You play a sloppy game like this. I'm not saying it's not going to be backdooring into a 10-point loss, but it'll be tight down the stretch if you make mistakes against Chicago, right? That's
basically what you're saying is if we play like crap, we may only beat the Bears by 15 or 25 points instead of a huge blowout. Is what you're saying?
No, unfortunately, no. The pass rush has to be better and more disciplined when they play the Bears. I know it's, again, the Bears defense in terms of EPA per dropback has been really good this year. Obviously, the Cardinals shredded them on the ground. I'm sure that's what we're going to be talking about next week, right, about how to attack the Bears defense. But, kind of like we talked about with Detroit last week, right? Detroit's really good running the football, but the Green Bay's going to, eventually, I think, got them into some third downs, and they just didn't convert and on defense. So, it could be the flip side on offense facing the Bears. You get into some third and longs, you feel apt to make mistakes, and drives get, ended pretty quickly. And they're just even as they play teams, like Seattle and like Miami at home, there just aren't going to be weeks off. And the mistakes that you make against Houston and Jacksonville and Indianapolis and Tennessee are just not the same mistakes you're going to, they're not the same repercussions that you're going to face with NFC North teams, NFC West teams down the stretch. Just not going to be the same. So the operation needs to be cleaned up. We got to, figure it out. got to get an external auditor, fix the issues, right? Come in and say, what's wrong with this, or something, and anything at this point.
I'm going to read off the remaining Packers schedule to you, and then I'm going to tell you the team that scares me the most on the schedule that
Okay.
I think clearly has the potential to just get in the Packers' way and make life really tough for them.
Okay.
Here's the schedule. So we got bye week, obviously. Then you have at Chicago, at home versus 49ers, at home versus Miami. Then you are at Detroit, at Seattle, at home versus the Saints, at Minnesota, and then you finish it up at home versus the Bears. And there is a team out there I'm so concerned about, and you know exactly what I'm going to say, Jake. It's the Packers. Packers are the team
It's themselves.
who can beat the crap out of us.
Yep.
None of those teams scare me. I mean, normally I would say the 49ers, but A, it's the regular season. It's not the playoffs, so we don't have...
Yeah, it's not the same thing. I agree.
It's not the same thing at all. And they're I think they'll probably be formidable. But, we have played much better 49ers teams in recent years and handled business.
For sure. And
but it's all about
Trent Williams, not the same player, right? This is kind of the first time he's had the kind of drop off in play a little bit, and so that's
and you notice how much that impacts the offense overall.
Right. And if again, McCaffrey healthy, Achilles, a lot of variables with that team. But yeah, I think it really is themselves. It's just if you think about it, again, this team is, I think they're 2-6 right now. You make mistakes against Miami, I mean, they've clearly shown they can put points on the board, right? They don't play great defense. But, again, you give them a turnover or two, you can find yourself chasing an offense that's, pretty formidable when Tua's playing. And so, they're, you're at Minnesota, you're at Detroit now. You're where, these teams, with O'Connell running their offense, it's clean when it's indoors. The Lions, when they're indoors, are insane. So if they beat themselves early in a lot of these matchups, they are in trouble for sure.
Prince Capsaicin says, when the Packers are on offense, you now have to pause after a good play to check for flags, and any return seems to guarantee one. 100% true. And there was one third down kind of deep shot this past week in the early fourth quarter by Jared Goff, and we got the incompletion. And I just immediately I said flag. I'm sitting there at home in the living room
Looking around.
and I just said flag. And my wife said, well, what was the flag? And I said, I don't know. I'm just sure there was one. And there wasn't one, and I was shocked. I was just shocked that there was not a flag on the play because we'd had flags every single crucial down for the last hour. And I think the Packer fans have been doing a really good job of acknowledging the fact that at this point a year ago, we were 3-6. And instead we're 6-3.
Yeah.
We were playing kind of like this last year, and we cleaned it up, figured it out, put it together.
Yeah.
So good job, Packer fans. I think largely almost the whole fan base is acknowledging that. And I think that's great. But there's no question that Matt LaFleur needs to get his players under control. You can't be playing this sloppy. We have talent everywhere. There's no spot on our roster that you're like, I just really worry about, if we face a team that can exploit us here. Exploit us where? In terms of us committing penalties and dropping balls when we're wide open? That's our weakness.
Right.
Our weakness is holding or pass interference and dropping wide open passes. That's it.
Yeah.
So
I know.
Get it cleaned up.
I know that everybody, this is a big thing right now, and I totally understand, right? We're fans and the fanalists are all why isn't Green Bay sticking to the run more early, right? When they're still in games, LaFleur likes to get to the pass. I mean, how many Josh Jacobs runs have come back via holding? Is Matt kind of sick of it where he's like, man, we keep drawing these holding penalties, And again, it's probably not all of it. LaFleur has done this before, right? He's gotten into pass happy stuff. But at the same time, that's got to be in the back of your head a little bit, where it's kind of like, all right, yeah, we can run the ball really well. Jacobs is good. This offensive line can generate some push. But the problem is on half these runs, we're getting this pulled back, and now we're into 1st and 20 or 1st and 18, wherever the foul occurs. And it's just, it's destroying drives when you do stuff like that. And I think the tough part is as you know, you're kind of combing through and you're looking at the young guys, right? And there's a lot of evaluation years for some guys. Ryan, you want to see what Morgan's doing as a rookie, and there's some good and there's some bad, and it's just the inconsistency is just kind of drives you up a wall a little bit, especially when you look around the league and you go, man, look at, you know who's playing consistent? 2 teams in our division, one of whom we didn't think was going to be here at this point in the season, right? Like, we thought that the Vikings were just had a tough opening schedule and they were just going to be behind the 8 ball. And turns out, no. Turns out they figured it out. And so that's what's tough. You're sitting here watching, you know, you have to survive with a field goal to win the game against the Jaguars, who, like, most teams have to let back in the game. Right? Like, it is.
I mean, to be fair, the Packers
tough.
kind of let the Jags back in the game, too.
They did, but they could have the Love interception, right? Some penalties early, and they just kind of like could have left them on the mat, right? It just kind of like got up and left them on the mat. It could have been over real early, and it's just, you know, again, the mistake. Like, the Houston game shouldn't have even been close. Houston game shouldn't have been close at all. So
Tyler Dershel said there's no better get-right game out of the bye week than a Bears team who's already giving up. I'm going to push back on that because I don't think we need a get-right game against a bad team.
Correct.
I think this Packers team needs a really tough opponent. Like, if they could play the Chiefs or the Ravens right now, like, I think that's what the doctor ordered.
Right.
Because
that's fair.
They need to actually care about the game they're playing in enough to play clean football and show up believing that they need to try to win. Yeah, I think that this kind of mushy schedule we played the last few weeks has kind of been to their detriment. Why the Lions were not enough of a get-up game for them at home?
That's a great question.
With you know, they're doing the alternate jerseys and everything. That's beyond me.
I'm not sure on that.
Why did they show up looking flat and not ready to execute? And like, it was kind of the same guys over and over again. You had all the false starts, all the holds, pass interference, and then like, I keep trying to like kind of forget the stat. What is it? Like, Wicks has caught 16 out of the last 43 passes thrown his way. Isn't that the stat?
It's something like that. It's not,
and it's not just him. Like, they're all dropping passes now at this point.
Yeah. It's credit. I will say credit to Reed for kind of when he drops the ball, he kind of gets himself off the mat really nicely, but he's still doing it. Credit to Dobbs for making, you know, the catches in like tougher spots. Seems to drop the ones that are low, right? That they kind of can just kind of get down for and sort of pin to the body a little bit. He seems to struggle a little bit on those for some reason, but he makes the you know, when Jordan Love throws seeds down there, and he's like Dobbs seems to like sit forward in the chair when it's a contested ball, and he's got to like contort the body to make a play, which I love that. But like, you have to pass a little low, Romeo. Let's handle those, right? And yeah, Wicks, I don't know what it is. It's just, it happens sometimes, and it's not good. And that's not an excuse to say it happens, but like, this does happen. Sophomore slumps, dropping passes, like this sort of yips catching the ball. It occurs with a lot of people. But yeah, it's just, it feels like you said, they should have got up for this one. Like Kansas City last year, Detroit on Thanksgiving, they got up for those. They said, no, we're here to play. This isn't, you're not pushing us around today.
Right.
So yeah, that was interesting. I will say the Bears team already giving up. I promise you, the way they talk though, this would be the game. At home against Green Bay, they're like, all right, you know what? Stop feeling – they're going to probably say this next week. Stop feeling sorry for yourselves. Green Bay's coming to town. We got a streak to break. We're not doing this anymore. I think that's going to be – I don't think the Bears are making the playoffs.
Right there.
I got one more thing. I don't think the Bears are making the playoffs, but this, if the Bears are going to show up for a couple games down the stretch at home, this is one of them. It will be one of them.
I'm sorry. Have you watched the Bears at all ever? This is not how the Bears operate right now. This is not.
Boy, I hope you're right, but I don't think you are.
This is not the modern day Bears. They're not showing up in this game.
Okay.
It ain't happening. It ain't happening.
Okay.
We will.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
2 weeks from now, we're going to be sitting here. We'll see.
It better not be. It better not be. Mistake Fest 23-17 nonsense. I swear, they better not be doing that stuff. Okay. I'm gonna say it next week too. You better beat that team 41-10. I've had enough. Get your head on straight in whatever it is, 10, 11 days, and go just destroy a team. Okay? I've had enough. They should be getting up for this. They should know that the NFC North, but you never know. The Pack, like you said already, the Packers, the biggest enemy is themselves right now, and it's going to be down the stretch. It just is. And I hope they clean it up. I really do.
Let's circle back on Wicks for a second.
Okay.
I just want a gut check here because I am still not at panic level with Wicks at all. Like I'm still at let's keep him on the field. Let's keep giving him opportunities. Like, yes, it's on him to start playing good football, but let's keep putting the ball in his hands. That's where I'm at. Are you there with me, or have you moved off of that?
I haven't moved off him. I think I was probably the one, like, through the first month where the drops were happening. I'm like, this is fine. It's just whatever's going on. It's not a big deal. We'll get this back on track. The fact that it's lingered halfway through the season, I think my concern level, if I were to put it out of 10, it's probably like a 3.5. We're getting to 4, right? Where it's like, okay, like there's concern there, but at the same time, I'm not going to be like, well, you got to bench him. Like, first of all, no, we're not doing that. I'm going to go back to this because I think everyone will remember it vividly. Second down, Super Bowl 45, Jordy drops a pass. Next play, what does Rodgers do? He says, third down, I'm going back to you. You're going to get yourself out of that, that mindset of the drop, and you're going to make a big play. Love that mentality. I think Jordan should have that same mentality with the receivers as well. And I think he does. I think, when you look at Jordan seems like nonchalant goldfish memory with the interceptions. So when a guy drops a pass, I'm sure he, there's probably a level of frustration that's brewed right once we've gotten to this, halfway through the season. But at the same time, I know that Jordan's the type of guy who's going to be out there and like, I believe in this. We're going to keep going to it. We're going to work through it. Like, because they all worked through it together last year, right? All of these guys, essentially, other than, your rookies for the most part. They worked through it together last year, not McKinney and not Jacobs, right? But the core of the offense in the passing game, they figured it out. And so I really do think that Wicks is getting open more than anybody but Reed, and I think he might even be getting open more than Reed, because Reed's a slot player, so that's, the open stuff is going to be a little bit easier. So I think that, he's more open than Dobbs and Watson ever will be. Just got to finish plays. I feel like he can get it back on track. But the concern level is a little bit more because we're leaking into the back half of the season here.
If we're role playing as Matt LaFleur, trying to figure out what this bye week is going to look like, which I've just never ever been impressed with how they look coming out of the bye week. And I'm not saying like bye week curse or anything, but a lot of teams come out and like turn things around if they've been struggling after the bye. And I've never been impressed with how it seems like the Packers have used their bye week time. Matt was talking about his message to the team, which was that he just wanted everybody on the team to pick one thing to improve on over the bye week. Which, I don't know. I'm not in that locker room.
Right.
I just kind of rolled my eyes at it. Like, buddy, you're the coach. You go tell them what you want them to
Yeah,
work on.
you and the position coaches should be like, you probably have some notes, right? You probably have some thoughts, right? You have to, right? Like you got to have some thoughts on this. Probably on every guy, right? Even on special teams, I'm sure. So it's kind of like, I don't know.
I mean, you
It's a
and I
strange deal.
could come up with a list of 1 to 2 things that we want just about every starter to be working on, and a lot of the backups too who get to see. So
Yeah, I because it's the bye week, I feel like I have a lot more notes, and like we're gonna have a bunch on here with all these guys. But like I mean, pick something. No, I'm picking.
yeah.
Wicks, I promise. Wicks, it's not about getting open, okay? You're doing that. Just catch the ball. He's got notes, right? I don't.
And I think
It's weird.
Wicks knows. I think Wicks knows what he needs to do too. Like he understands that it's largely it's concentration drops. He's already got his eyes upfield. Like he knows that.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the just dumb mistakes that he was making early on, those seem to have cleaned up. Like he was just there were moments when, hey, put the ball in his hands, great. He didn't drop it. And he just does something stupid with it. Like the first 3 or 4 games this season, I was really frustrated with that. And I feel like that has stopped. I feel like he's got his head on straight as far as making decisions in the moment. But like half the time when he is dropping these balls, his eyes are still like he didn't even look at the ball. He just and maybe that's a situation where he feels a lot of confidence, and it's like kind of the opposite of what we're thinking, that we're looking at it as like he's got the yips, and really he just believes in himself too much to where he's not following through the whole process of making the completion. I don't know. We do have a ton of people here in the chat talking about edge rushers in the draft. Questions about body types. Jake, I imagine you're chomping at the bit to talk about some of this.
Well, yeah, because I want to hit on a couple things, right, where it's like being done with 270 plus on the edge. No, you can't be. Sorry, we're in a 4-3 now. There ain't gonna be no 240. That was what the 3-4 was for. This is why Green Bay wasn't in the Browning sweepstakes. 6'3", 240 isn't playing on early downs. It just isn't. Unless you're the rare guy like Will Anderson, right? That's the rare guy at 240 who can put the hand in the dirt and defend the run at a high level no matter what. He's like 243. Those don't grow on trees. Will McDonald, folks, that's not an early down run defender. I don't like beating the drum on this, but every time I see somebody saying, why weren't we interested in Browning? Why weren't we interested in Ojulari? Brother, Baron Browning played linebacker at Ohio State. It's very possible that Goody goes, yeah, that's an off-ball linebacker at the size that he's at. Like and that's why I call, Preston Smith the rare 265 who just probably better at 3-4, right? Like there are those guys who are, the rare types where you go, oh yeah, the size. Yeah, he can fit in either, or he's better at this. It's just they're not going to go away from 255, 260 at the lightest. And even then, right, you look at your Kingsley Enagbare. Early downs? Not really, right? Like that's a pass rusher who's got enough size, but he's still not somebody on early downs where I go, oh yeah, he's got it. So yeah, they're not going away from this. What Brian Maffey is putting on the screen, they're not going to go away from it, especially now with what they're sitting in. The issue with this is they need to find the guys who A, can set the edge, B, need the bull rush, gotta have it, and C, can play disciplined but also be quick enough to transition from okay set edge run to okay attack with moves as a pass rusher. It's going to be like that. That's just how it is when you're playing defensive end and the Lions are, under center, running, play action, all of that. You're in the division with them. That's not going anywhere. So, you have to have those guys because we can talk about Micah Parsons all day as a pass rusher. What happens when Green Bay plays Dallas? Who do they run at? Well, everybody, because they have 287-pound defensive tackles and a 15-pound linebacker on base downs. But you catch the drift. 2022, watch the game against Dallas. Who do they run at? Parsons. Because he's lighter, playing edge. That's why Green Bay will not go that route unless they're playing Sam linebacker and base. It's just how it is. That's just where we're at. Right? McDonald is good. There's no question. He's a good pass rusher. He's just, and again, he has the length, but he's much more of the, like, yes, he can play run defense in the 3-4 because he's got the length and he plays tough. In the 4-3, it's not as easy of an assignment because you don't have a 3-4 end to your inside who's helping you with the offensive line. So we're just not going to be able to do that. It's not, unless you find the rare type like your Will Anderson, you're just not going to get it done that way. I would love for it to work that way. You have to find the rare one. Otherwise, JJ, you remember, who are we talking about? Potentially first round sleeper. Could have done this if he got there. Jared Verse. Why?
Oh my
He's
gosh.
6'4", 260, and he's got enough to do everything, and he is showing it right now. He is the defensive rookie of the year.
Not a sleeper to me. I wanted to trade.
No, I mean a sleeper as in like, oh, they could go this direction in round one, because and you would get the shock value a little bit more because people be like, oh yeah, the edge room it's full and all that, right? We kind of had that conversation, but I get what you're saying, right? Because we kind of were thinking about it and brought it up, but like that's why we brought it up, right? The Latu's bigger, right? Dallas Turner is not. Okay, if you've watched the Vikings, Dallas Turner has dropped into coverage a ton. He is playing off the ball. He hasn't always been on the line either. So that's what happens, kind of when, you make this move scheme-wise. It's like, okay, in the draft, if Goody wasn't going to change in the 3-4 for guys, I'm telling you, he's not changing in the 4-3. It's not going to be that way. So Brian's kind of hit it on the head, right? Of like, that's what they do. So I have to get it out there. Have to say that, just because then we don't have to go through this. Well, we're probably going to have to do it anyway. Where it's going to be like, hey, the Packers select James Pierce in my mock draft. I'm like, no, they're not. They're not doing that, right? So that's the key. You got to know the team when you're doing the mocks and going through all this, right? And I think fans are getting there because I think there's a really nice group of folks who do a really nice job now, pushing more to the tendencies of what we've seen. And Goody likes the bigs. And if he likes the small, they're probably good, right? Jaden Reed. Okay. So like that's Jair Alexander was another one. They kind of talked about that. It was like, oh, Goody, you went a little bit lower than, Ted had done and all this at corner. He's like, well, we like the player. So like that's where you're going to get. But at edge, it's just, and it's okay. And it's the good news, edge rushers, there are some heavy hitters. I mean that literally 280, 290 who people think can play defensive end. That should excite you. It really should, because it's a group where you can look at a lot of them and be like, oh yeah, I can see that. So, and we're going to talk about that a lot, I'm sure. So anyway,
I mean, honestly, like we won't, but we could make this entire episode a defensive end and defensive line episode. Like we could talk about that all night long, and people would listen to it, and the comments would never end.
Yeah.
And then I would go to sleep sad tonight because we didn't get to talk about Northern College football.
Right.
But the Preston Smith thing does leave me a little bit concerned about depth.
That's fair.
I do just really wonder if if in a few weeks we find ourselves in a situation where Rashawn Gary is abducted by aliens and we have to survive without him for a few weeks. I don't like to talk about people getting hurt because I don't want to speak.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
So if he gets abducted by aliens and we got to survive without him for a while, you're asking
that's a problem.
Enigbare and Lucas Van Ness to carry the entire show and Aaron Mosby and Brenton Cox are your. I mean, they're playing a ton of snaps. That's the thing. They're playing a third of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I remember having this conversation. We were kind of like, yeah, what if they move Preston? What if they move on from Preston, right? All of those possibilities, and kind of like, well, they could go edge if they wanted to, and it wouldn't bother me. But yeah, I think right, and that's where we had the Nealon conversation, right? All that was fun.
Well, do you remember?
We had a good time.
Oh, man. Marshawn Nealon.
Yeah,
you
we had a
remember?
good time with that. So like,
You remember that stretch where I kept going edge in the first?
Oh
and
yeah,
second
you
round
did.
every single week on this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Totally unintentional. I loved all those edges so much.
Yeah, I mean, it was a
kinda
good
wish
group
we had.
because it was kind of like, oh, Robinson, and then Robinson didn't test well, and you're like, darn it, we're off the board there. But you're kind of hoping, right? We kind of talked about like it was, and it happened, right? Offensive heavy, first 14 picks are offense, and you're like chomping at the bit, like, heck yes, defensive players like falling to where we're at. And yeah, I do remember you doing that on multiple occasions, and it was kind of like, sure, if you want, right? Like I'm down, right? We had the conversation with Kenny too a little bit, where it was like, if they don't bring him back, like, could they just take Johnny Newton? Sure, they could, because they might need some help in a little bit. And I don't think pass rushing defensive tackles is the issue per se at the moment. Right. It would just kind of be nice to have a one tech who can sit in there and defend the run and take on multiple guys and be able to kind of cement the 4-3 really nicely. And then there is a guy, JJ, you know him well. We'll be talking about him. Tyleek Williams. Yeah,
Ty
we'll probably be
Hamilton,
talking
too,
about
frankly.
him. Huh? Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say Ty Hamilton as well.
Oh yeah. I mean,
much
it's
later round. Like Tyleek's
Right.
gonna be a first rounder.
Yeah, and so like they kind of need that.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be kind of like, well, they've always kind of stuck to the 290s and 305s, and it's like, yeah, but Halfley's probably going to come to you and kind of be like, hey, listen, I love these guys in the room, but I need X. I need this at defensive tackle. So I feel like we're gonna. That's where we sit, and the lack of depth is concerning, right? If Van Ness or Gary were to be abducted by aliens, right? Like, you're at a position, where you have the smaller guys behind them who, as I said before, it's even pushing with those guys. It's kind of like defending the run on early downs. If I were an opponent, right? Like, I think I'd be running their way, to be honest. So,
You made a point a minute ago about like that we don't really need pass
This
rushing
guy?
defensive tackles so much. Yeah, go ahead.
this is the winter warning. This is the
Can you hold
new
up
one.
close enough to the camera so we can see
see the gold
flex?
flakes? I think so. There you go. You kind of see it below the stripe a little bit. It's there.
Not on my internet connection. I can't see it.
If I push it
I see it.
closer,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
So beautiful.
gold flexer. Yeah, it's had to. Anyway,
But you made the point about us not really needing pass rushing defensive tackles right now. I would point to weeks 5 through 7 or whatever when we didn't have Devontae Wyatt.
that's true.
He's kind of our only interior pass rush at the moment.
Yeah,
Carl Brooks is generating something when he's
Yeah.
there, but we're starting to see him playing out a little wider now, which we might see him out wider much more frequently now.
yeah. I was gonna
Preston being
say,
there.
talk about your guy playing out there, because you've mentioned it on several occasions.
I mean, frankly, if our rotation is, you got Rashawn. I think it's going to be Rashawn and Kingsley, but I'd like it to be Rashawn and Lucas. But Rashawn and Kingsley, and then Lucas and Carl rotating in. Like, we're still going to see a lot of Aaron Mosby, and
Yeah.
are we going to see Brenton Cox? I would assume so.
Yeah, probably have to. At some point, when you're up 41-10 on the Bears, and you got to play some guys, right? Like,
I'm ready
Right, you're
for Carl
probably gonna
Brooks to
have
just be a full-time defensive end for us, frankly.
it's not It's not a terrible idea. It really isn't. And like we're gonna probably be talking about, like as I mentioned, 280, 290 at defensive end. We're kind of like, that works for me. Like LT Overton from Alabama, who's turning the corner as a 3 tech. It's kind of like, well, probably could work defensive end. So
Joseph wants to know if this is a 47 brand T-shirt. I don't know. I don't think so. It's my wife got it for me. She got it as a pajama top, actually. But it's very comfortable, and I like being able to wear a Packers shirt on the live stream. And a lot of my Packers shirts don't show up as green when I wear them on the stream. That looks either gray or blue.
yeah.
So the white one is nice. Joseph, put it back in your pocket.
Oh my goodness.
Leave me alone. Carl Brooks is a decent starting point since Gary doesn't give it. Dude,
I
this is the wrong channel to come hating at Rashawn Gary on.
it's hard to say that. I get it. I get that we've seen that before after contracts, but I don't know. I think this is a nice little thing from Lee here as well, talking about, if only we had a Rasul Douglas type corner. I thought the trading, made sense where they were at as a team at the trade deadline last year, right? And then they went on the run, and then they waited to draft Caleb King in the 7th. I mean, I get that like Arnold struggled a little bit. They didn't have a chance to take Mitchell really. McKinstry hasn't been all that. Wiggins was a smaller guy. Cam Hart was a guy we talked about. He's done a decent job when he's got on the field for the Chargers, but yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't do anything to address it until the 7th. But it is what it is.
I'm adding up Rashawn Gary's pass rush attempts over the last 4 weeks, because since the Arizona game, he's been on a tear.
Yeah, this is, I think, a fair thing that Brian brings up here, where Gary's fallen in love with trying to bend the edge. And part of that is being in the 3-4, where it's like, oh, my avenue on rushing downs in the 3-4, or when I'm wider, than traditionally, maybe a little bit more, in this defense, is like, that's an avenue I can reach because I'm explosive, I'm athletic, and I can turn the corner. Right? Like he can do that, and that's why he's in that habit. Instead of, you watch just guys who are just absolutely incredible. It's just like, I'm going to run through you with this bull rush. And like Gary can do it, So it's just,
Rashawn Gary
it's a
over
habit.
the last 4 games is at a 16.5% pressure rate, which is absurd.
It's really, really good.
It's crazy high. Y'all need to chill out. First of all,
It's really good.
Yes, Rashawn does look slower when he's out there. I think he's still coming back from that ACL a little bit. Like to see that speed get back up there again. He's getting a 16.5% pressure rate. And by the way, so he got just 2 pressures and a sack this past week against the Lions. Oh man, that's crap. Okay, he only was out there on a passing downs 14 times.
Yeah.
Lions did not throw the ball very much.
No.
So,
and he's credited at least on
have to look at the numbers. You have to look at the numbers because it never lines up with what you think you saw.
Also, I don't know if Next Gen Stats does the same thing as PFF, but he had 3 stops last week, and I assume stops is probably the same as it is on PFF.
PFF only credits him with 1 stop this past week.
Okay, so maybe it is
he has. They've only given him 13 stops on the season, 4 of those in the past 4 weeks.
Okay, because Next Gen has him for 19, so it might be different.
So I think the difference is PFF wants it to be no gain or a loss of yards. And I think Next Gen Stats also includes, like let's say that it's 3rd and 5, you only get 1. So like PFF wouldn't give you a stop
Yeah.
on that, but next gen stats would, which I think that's what I'd rather know anyways.
Right. Yeah. That's
Or like it's 3rd and 2 or 4th and 2, and you run it and you get a yard. Okay, PFF's not going to give it to you because you got past the line of scrimmage. Okay, I don't care. You succeeded in what we were all crossing our fingers and hoping you were going to successfully do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to find the pressure. I don't remember how to freaking do this. What's annoying is I can't. I'm trying to get it on next gen, but it's annoying me with the wrong position groups and pressure rate. And I'm trying to get rid of qualified. I'm trying to make it qualified defenders on the pressure rate.
Side note: this was the shortest, fastest week ever. I was so annoyed when I realized how little that I actually got done on my to-do list this week that I was hoping to be able to do. Like I wanted to make a shorter version of my Ed Policy song, so I could play like a little short outro for you guys.
I like it.
I still just have the 2-minuter. I don't even know if you guys want to hear that again. I might just do what we usually do and skip the song. Let me know if you'd like to hear the song again.
Yeah.
But I want to make like a 30-second outro of that.
That would be
Just
good.
play every week.
That
I
would be
did. I didn't go through and add up everybody's full week by week record for Northern College football, but I did put their season record and record against the South in for everybody. So that'll be nice when we're trying to re-rank our tiers.
Yeah, too, because I know people are asking about the pressure rate for others around the league. On the full season, it looks like Garrett is at the top from what I can see at 21.5. Hunter and McDonald are above 20. I think that's it for above 20%. Anderson's at 17. Dorrance Armstrong from Washington's at 17 as well.
These are
Then you get-
wild numbers. We have
Then you get into
multiple guys over
Bosa and
20.
Hutchinson in the high 16s. So like there are guys there, but and again, I know that Gary's isn't the highest, but he's still ahead of, plenty of guys in this league right now in terms of pressure.
It's
At least for next gen. Like on the season he's at like 13.8.
I have him at 16.0 on the season. Oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
I only
which
last 4 weeks.
people are probably not going to believe that this is high. He's higher than this guy, but he is higher than Max Crosby, at least on next gen stats. Which I didn't think that was going to be the case either. I'll be honest.
I know
But
a lot of people
He
who are not gonna
actually
wanna hear
is.
that.
So, I don't know. I mean, well, they have TJ Watts at 9.5.
Wow.
That seems impossible. There you go.
I will say all these numbers sound a little weird to me.
They do, and I'm
You're getting
probably
these from Next Gen Stats.
yeah.
I usually just calculate them myself.
That's fair.
From PFF. I think I use SIS sometimes too. I can't remember if
SAS would be a good one.
does pressures. At least for the last year, I've always used PFF for it. But the rule of thumb that we always try and follow is 10% is average. You want like 12% to be considered, good. And then once you're up anywhere near 14, 15%, like we are really cooking with gas. You should be thrilled. Like you can sustain that for the whole season. Like 16% pressure rate on the whole season, absolutely phenomenal.
Right.
I know Von Miller in which year did he go off? Was that 2015? Was that his crazy year? He was at 19% on the season for
15? That sounds right. Yeah, it was
So-
probably 15 because that's when the defense carried him to a title. So
I've
imagine
seen
that's
guys put up low 20s for a period of time. I've never seen 20 or higher for a whole season.
Yeah.
But maybe next gen stats calculates it differently. They certainly could.
Yeah. Prince Capsaicin, who says he was hoping to see Haddon in coverage. I just want to get to a few of these. I assume we're going to be transitioning here pretty quickly into Northern college football. PFF seems off. Yeah,
I will tell you guys, the fastest way to push me over to Northern college football is whining about how much you hate our players. That's just a great way to. When the whole chat is just, oh, I hate this guy and I hate this guy, like that's. I'm not telling you not to feel those things, but also like I'm gonna want to transition over to college football quicker.
Yeah. Packers Kingdom's throwing out a lot of names. Yeah, we've mentioned quite a few of those guys. Mentioned quite a few of them last night, believe it or not.
Derek
trying to censor
so much
me.
fun to watch.
That's funny. Nice. No, AFAM, we're not trying to censor you. But yeah, there's a lot. Derek Harmon, yeah, somebody I brought up who I don't know why he's super low, still on the PFF big board. I'm not sure why that is. But
Derek
yeah,
Harmon?
at defensive tackle.
It's because of Jordan Birch. Jordan
Birch isn't even on there, I don't think.
What? He
I
should
don't
be.
even think Birch is on the PFF board at the moment.
No way.
I don't remember seeing him.
You know what?
But
I mean, nobody should be listening to the PFF comment or content creators anyways. Like, use their stats, use the grades, and ignore the content creators. They're terrible. So, don't go read the PFF bio of a draft prospect. Go read from, your favorite scouts. Read multiple scouts and go watch them yourself and make your own observations. Use the stats. But no, Derek Harmon's fantastic. I think Jordan Birch is the significantly more hyped defensive tackle on that line. I think they're both really good.
yeah. I mean,
But
Birch
I think
Birch
if
has the
anybody's
size.
not talking about Harmon, it's because of Birch.
Could be. That could be. But yeah, K-Part's interesting. I know Nagy's brought him up plenty before. Jordan Phillips has not really been brought up a ton in circles. Just because I don't think many people are watching Maryland, right? Like, I don't think that many people are tuning in.
Actually, when I read Jordan Phillips, my mind went to the guy who played for the Bills and
That's
the
fair.
Cowboys, because he's the
Yeah,
defensive
from
tackle, too.
Oklahoma.
That's where
Yeah.
my mind went at first.
Yeah, the Oklahoma kid. Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, Phillips is interesting. I know both of them don't have a ton of pressures this year. But I don't think K-Part's played a ton of snaps to generate enough pressure. But I know Phillips has played like over 300 or so. Yeah, I mean the Texas A&M guys, if you haven't watched all of them, that's your homework. So, that's, you definitely get on that. Scourton, Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner, take a peek. I brought this up last night for those who were there, but for those who were not, a guy I talked to a lot in the industry, respect a lot in the industry, put out a mock draft. He hates doing them, but he put one out. Here, I'll read it. Do you want me to read it quick on Shamar Stewart? Okay, just because it was.
Yes, please.
It's really good, and for Lee and for Coach Len and some of the guys who were in there last night, once I read it, they were like, "Oh, that's a Packer for sure." So here it is. Okay, he didn't give Shamar Stewart to the Packers actually in this mock, but he the description is what I want to see. He gave Overton, the Bama guy, to Green Bay, but this is what he wrote about Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. Okay. So here we go. Texas A&M's Shamar Stewart is an athletic freak, and he's listed at 6'6" and 290 pounds. Even if the production has not quite matched the talent yet. He is just 20 years old and is a literal giant ball of clay. That's interesting, isn't it? Where have I heard that before? Maybe the two guys who will be starting at defensive end this week. Both of them.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
So that's just, keep your eye out, as we drift ever so closer day by day to the draft. That's where we're sitting, right? Like he is going to be on the radar if he declares. Right? That's where we're at.
Number 15 for
Mississippi.
Isn't that? I thought it was
Mississippi.
I'm looking at Jared Ivey. Is that who we're looking at?
Yeah, that's Jared Ivey. Yeah, I mean,
I have not watched any of
6'6",
Jared
285 makes sense. I mean, 2 years at Georgia Tech, he's had consistent pressure and sack numbers the last 3 seasons. So yeah, I mean, pretty much anybody in the SEC right now, other than Pierce, no, not happening. Are guys you should be looking at along the defensive line. So I imagine Ivey's not going to be as high as some of the others. Could be a Senior Bowl guy though, which we've seen that correlation already. So yeah, Jared Ivey's definitely one. I mean, the PFF grades massive jump this year. So
the guy Jared Ivey.
Oh, is that oh my goodness, who's the team they're playing against there? Is that Central Arkansas? That's purple. Anyway.
Big boy.
Yeah. AFM says, does anyone else try to headstand like me after seeing the Amon-Ra? So does everybody think Amon-Ra was first to do that? Just checking. Because first of all, Drake London tried it first. Now, it wasn't as good, okay? Drake London tried it first on Sunday, but they were all copying the Incarnate Word guy from Saturday. But Amon-Ra's was sick. That was so clean when he did that.
He did pull it off.
That was really good. That got a big chuckle out of my dad watching it when he did that. So, yeah, that was cool.
Tell me this doesn't look like Rashawn Gary's body.
Yeah. I mean, he's in 6'6", 285. I mean, yeah.
Jared Ivey's a little shorter, but
yeah. Yeah.
Chris, I like your comment. I can't pin it, but I
No.
like it. I'll just say that.
I mean, doesn't everybody want a Will Anderson or an Aiden Hutchinson? Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
darn it. If
only we got one
the
of
number
those.
1 pick in the draft.
Yeah, number 1 and number 3. It would be nice, no doubt. No doubt. It would be really, really nice.
You know what else would have been nice?
Yeah.
Would have been if more of our northern teams had showed up in their games
Yeah,
against southern teams.
that's nice. Let's do that. Let's make the transition.
I have
All right, folks.
one team that I do have to shout out. One team decided to show up this week.
That's fair.
Washington beat USC. Everybody else lost to the South. Pitt lost to SMU. Kansas State lost.
I don't
to
know if we can say
Houston.
JJ. I don't think we can say Pitt lost to SMU. That was 41 to 10 early in the fourth. That was domination. That was wipe them off the planet defeat from Pitt there. That was yikes.
I suppose Syracuse beating Virginia Tech 38-31 counts as well. But the one that had me the most upset, by far the most upset, UCLA has lost to every
I know
Big Ten
that
team
one
they played this year.
That one's
And
insane.
then Nebraska is at home.
That one
and they
is
fumbled
insane.
this one so hard.
Yeah,
Whoops,
I
just lost my screen.
That was really I thought we were chalking that one up. Like, seriously. Last week, we finished, we kind of looked at the schedule and it was like, yeah, okay, cool. Nebraska's getting the W. Excellent. We're out of there. Like, it shouldn't be an issue. And they made it an issue. But the good news.
Where
Where's
Wisconsin
W
Stout is on this
That's
list.
funny. Whichever division they're in, we should, northern teams, it's going to expand. This might expand.
So you're not going to let Boise State in, but you'll consider Wisconsin Stout.
No, I'm saying we can do different divisions, right, of this. Right. This is the Premier League version. Okay?
Ooh, I like it.
Of the northern teams, right? And then we keep going down to the other ones to give everybody some love. So Boise State, again, they'll probably be in, right? We're relegating the loser of the game that we'll get to fourth on the list. So we better start.
All right, so if you have never tuned in before and you're like, hey, what's this Northern College football thing you're talking about? Let me just take 10 seconds and educate you. What, Jake?
I'm just waving to the people who said, yeah, no, Packers stuff is done. We're out of here. If that's you, see ya. I know Packers Kingdom, you're dropping some excellent thoughts on the draft. That's great. Love it. Just acknowledging that. But I'll also wave to the people who are definitely going to be popping out of here when we start this. So
here on Derailed, we are champions for Northern College football. And we like to tell the South to frickin' cram it.
Got that right.
We like the SEC when it comes to, NFL draft time. That's fun.
Yes,
go steal some players from Georgia or
which we
Florida
just
State
did.
Or whoever.
So that,
Actually, not Florida State this year, but
no. No, thanks. Stay in school, kids.
But have you ever heard the way that ESPN will just absolutely navel gaze and just
they put them on a pedestal, JJ. They put them on a
the
pedestal.
SEC.
Yeah.
Put them on a pedestal. All right. Even the
they have
way
their own
lose
network.
is beautiful. The way their quarterbacks hand the ball off to the running back, gorgeous. The way they play a 6-13 game with a lot of punting, that's just proof that the SEC is really deep. All right?
Yeah.
No. We're here to tell the South and the media to cram it.
Yep.
So we talk about Northern College football. We have 28 Northern teams that we like to cover.
Yep.
I would like it to be 29 this year. Jake is insisting we can't let Boise State.
Can I ask you a question?
Until they clinch the postseason.
JJ, can I ask you a question? Were you the one who voted yes on that Boise State poll on Spotify, or did you let somebody else do it? Did you click yes? Be honest.
I put a poll in Spotify and asked if we should make Jake let Boise State in. Only one person responded, but that person said yes. I just want to thank whoever you are.
It's not you?
It's not me. No.
Oh, nice. Okay. I had to ask. I had to ask for the people because we bring Boise State up a lot. I had to get it on the record. So, okay. Whoever you are, I hear you. Next year.
We do have Jake on the record saying that if Boise State makes the playoffs, then they can be allowed into the North for the remainder.
Oh, that's a
of this
guarantee.
season.
Yes, guarantee.
So one of the things we like to do here is we re-rank our Northern teams every week. So what you see on the left of your screen is where the teams were last week.
Yeah,
we're going to move them around this week because they did some stuff. I've updated their current records. The big game.
Yes.
Ohio State, Penn State. This game was a barn burner. It was so good.
Yeah.
What a game. I don't want to move Penn State down because they played great.
I do.
Man, we do have to move Ohio State back up.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Welcome. Welcome, Ohio State. Nice of you to show up.
Yeah.
Unlike
that was good.
last week with that Nebraska, whatever that was.
Yes.
Man, if we had lost, if Ohio State had lost to Nebraska, and then Nebraska went and laid that 20-27 goose egg against UCLA.
Yeah. Not good. Not good. But they survived. We're all right.
The story of the game would be that Ohio State brought back Carson Hinsman. He was their center for the 2023 season. And they brought him back to come in and play left guard this week. He played fantastic, really did. I thought Donovan Jackson, the entrenched starter at left guard for the Buckeyes, who got moved to left tackle, thought he really struggled against Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter's going to be a first-round pick. I still would have liked to see way better in pass pro than what we saw from Donovan Jackson. So monitor that going forward. Carson Hinsman, he played out of his mind. He was great. So really made a big difference. I think that this Ohio State team can go toe-to-toe with anybody.
Yeah.
Oregon is still number 1 in our tier 1, but I think no question about it, Ohio State belongs at number 2 in our tier 1.
I agree.
And so Indiana, I am going to skip ahead a little bit because we're talking tier 1 right now.
For sure.
Smoked Michigan State. This was like the
that's
second good opponent that they played this year. Go ahead, Jake.
47 unanswered. 47 unanswered after going down 10-0. I got to be excited for about 2 minutes. And then they said, no. We're going to drop the hammer. Curtis Rourke is back. We're not messing around much longer. And boy, they didn't. So,
Jake, I know you're our resident Indiana hater, and that's fine.
Forever.
You have seen me be somewhat objective at times.
You are.
Michigan.
Yes.
All right. I sang the praises last week
For
of
sure.
the quarterback approach that they took with first and second down going to Alex Orji, third down going to Davis Warren. I think that when I really try, can step back and be objective about Michigan. So I'm going to ask you to follow my model.
I will politely decline. I'm kidding.
Should Curtis Rourke be in the Heisman conversation?
Can I pull the numbers up? I don't have.
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
Cool.
Curtis Rourke is the Indiana quarterback, of course. I think that, and we'll have to look at the College Football Playoff Committee's first rankings.
Oh, that's
season.
true. That was a big day yesterday. Hope y'all tuned in.
I think there's one thing that the playoff committee got horribly wrong in their rankings, and that is Indiana.
Oh, okay. That's not what I thought you were going with that. But that'll be.
Tell me what you thought.
I thought you were going to say Bama at anywhere in the playoff.
Well,
it's just that is unfortunately circumstance. We're going to get to one of those teams that kind of paved that way for Bama to be in there this week because they lost a game they shouldn't have lost. We'll get there, but yeah.
So look, if you notice, Indiana is down here below Tennessee.
That's laughable.
Tennessee.
That's really funny, honestly.
It's bad. I think
we're not doing this.
Joel Klatt made he was really hot under the collar and very upset over where Indiana was ranked. And he made the case. You look at any of the blue bloods in college football. Take Michigan, Miami, Bama, anybody.
Yeah.
And give them the resume of Indiana. Yeah, you haven't really played anybody. You played Nebraska and Michigan State, but you whooped everybody.
Yeah.
Where would they be ranked? Would they be ranked any lower than 2? They wouldn't.
No, probably not. But I'll be the hater.
Indiana,
I wouldn't rank them higher than 4 right now, personally. I wouldn't rank them higher than
right.
I wouldn't rank them higher than 4.
So who's your 3 in that case? Is it Georgia or Miami? Or
I would lean Georgia. Miami kind of scares me a little bit right now. I think Indiana's played more consistent than Miami has by far so far, and I know has Miami really played? Was Miami played? They played anybody? I feel like they have
don't
not.
know.
I feel like they have not played anybody. Who have they played? Okay, Louisville.
They're in the
no,
South. I don't.
we're not pretending Louisville. Nobody. We're not pretending nobody noticed that Louisville snuck in to 23 on the playoff rankings. Why? Why are we doing that?
Come on. At this
Why are
point,
we doing that?
At this point, playoff committee, just follow your heart. Put
Why are they
Florida
just
State
throwing teams in there?
Put
Okay,
Florida
I know.
State in. We know you want to.
Put the Calgorithm in.
I mean,
Yeah,
who's
this isn't
Miami's
ideal.
best win right now? Is it Virginia Tech?
Where they probably should have won.
Like
That
Louisville,
call
I
was
think, is their
very
only ranked
questionable.
win.
Yeah.
Yeah, Louisville's their only ranked win.
Yeah, I mean, Cal was beating up on them. This is just like, to me, I don't know, JJ, hear me out. Let's work through this a little bit.
The reason that
This
Miami
feels
is at number 4 is because of Cam Ward. They just like
right,
Cam Ward.
right,
That's
for
it.
sure. And they're getting him. Does Miami not feel like the Vikings of 2 years ago to you? Where it's like, eventually these close games, you're not going to win them all, bud.
No. Well, I mean, you've already had multiple questionable games where
Right.
people are going,
Yeah, it's just like,
can we not have conference referees? Can we just
Yeah,
have
exactly.
nonpartisan
Like-
referees so that it isn't even a question?
yeah,
Please?
I'm not there. I personally would put Texas ahead of Miami. I just not like what I'm seeing right now. I would take Indiana over Miami right now. No question. Not even talking
Yeah,
about
I mean,
Tennessee, but I mean, I think
I still think that I'll just say 4 of the best 5 or 6 teams in college football are Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, like we thought from the beginning.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
put. I think I would, power ratings, which doesn't really mean anything. Like power
Right.
ratings, I would probably put Georgia below Texas, even though they beat Texas. I understand.
yeah, no, I get
I
what you're
still
saying.
have more questions about Georgia than I do about Texas.
I think that is very fair. Yeah, at this point.
I think other teams who should be right there in the mix: Penn State, Indiana, BYU.
For sure.
I think that's about it. Like I don't get Tennessee out of here. Tennessee at 7.
They think they still have Georgia
What?
on the schedule. So I think that might take care of
Bama
itself.
at 11, 6-2 Bama. Now where's Vanderbilt? Because they ranked Vanderbilt high
No.
somewhere.
I don't think
They
they
didn't even
did.
put Vanderbilt on here.
No.
Okay. So we're giving Bama credit for beating Georgia.
Yep.
and nobody else, and losing
Right.
to Vanderbilt and Tennessee.
Yeah. Correct.
And then I'm trying to remember who beat Tennessee? Somebody stinky. Kentucky?
It was Arkansas.
Yeah.
We can't be doing that.
This
We can't be
is
doing that.
how the media works, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the SEC. Man, these teams are so tough. I mean, how do you expect Bama to be undefeated? All right? They had to play Vanderbilt. Yeah, they're the worst team in the SEC every year, but I mean, this is just proof that the SEC got even better this year because even Vanderbilt is tough. All right? That's how they talk.
Yeah.
That's how they think. Screw the media.
Put Army and Boise in the playoff. Anyway.
I'll say there is a non-zero chance that Boise is ranked ahead of the ACC winner. Or maybe
That's
the Big 12.
possible.
I think there's a non-zero chance that Boise State is one of the top 4 seeds in the playoffs.
That's Boise State at
Would
4.
love to see. Would love
Yeah.
to see that.
Okay.
All right. So in light of what we were talking about Indiana.
Indiana. Yeah.
All right. Indiana versus Penn State. Who deserves to be ranked higher on this list? I mean, we just said that we probably would put Indiana at 4 in the college playoff rankings. Would we put them ahead of Penn State on our northern college football rankings?
Yes.
And for me, it still mostly comes back to the Bowling Green game at the beginning of the year.
I just think it's like this, right? Penn State at
Well,
this
in the
point,
USC game.
right?
USC stinks.
Yeah, Yeah, that was a very Miami game for them. Like, ooh, we shouldn't be doing this. We need to win. And it's like, okay, we did that. But I do think also, unfortunately, the tier 1 is gonna be 4 teams going. Well, fancy Illinois is tier 1. We already know, but it's 4 real teams.
I might have to do this.
4 real teams. Are we gonna put fancy Illinois is the number 1 fancy Illinois tier? That's fair. I like it. I'm in. So, yeah, I do think it's going to go down to 4 teams, which that's sure. There we go.
Well,
we got to. Can't lose Tech.
Well, do we want to jump that far? Because
I think they got to go to tier 2.
Question, they got to drop down to tier 2. I mean, first of all, this is their second. No, it's not their second South loss.
It's their second game. It is their second game against
they're
one.
at least get moved down to
yeah.
tier 2. But I want to move BYU.
You want to move them to tier 1.
Really tempted.
Just because you want a 5th team in tier 1.
No, they're 3-0 against the South.
I understand, but what nothing changed from last week. They didn't play.
Hate you. You're right.
That's why I was like, if they were up there, they could have been up there last week. But
fine.
I like what we're doing at the moment.
I can't promote them on a bye week. You're right.
I can't. We can't. We'll get there. They still have Southern teams to play, believe it or not, on the schedule. So that's good news.
I understand what you're doing. You're trying to preserve the integrity of Derailed because
tier 1.
It also means the integrity of Northern College football.
Right.
So
okay.
All right. You're the get back. You're the get back coach. So I appreciate it.
There we go.
Thank you for keeping me in check.
Yeah.
All right. Tier 1, got to be 4 teams.
Yep.
And I don't think there's a huge gap between Penn State and BYU. I think there's a pretty significant gap between BYU and everybody else in tier 2. Now, BYU and Iowa State.
We might get to see that. We still might get to see that. So it's going to come down to, because I made this point to my sister who went to Iowa State. I was like, Kansas State was in the dogfight. We're going to get to that. If they lose and you win out up to that last game against Kansas State, doesn't matter. You can drop the game. You're still going to the Big 12 title game. And then, unfortunately, you don't finish the job against Texas Tech at home.
Right.
So now that game still is in play at the end of the season. So, oh no, I've got the big train's coming. So I might mute in and out here because
that's you. I thought
yeah. You can hear it already. Oh man.
Oh yeah, I can.
Oh no, it's not even close yet.
No, I love this. Hold on, wait. All I have to do is just switch back to our train graphic.
There we go. The derailed train.
Right. Maybe what I
Here
should
it comes.
do is
Yo, it's gonna be loud. It's still hundreds of feet away.
Actually, I can't do that.
It's still hundreds of feet away.
It
is loud when it's next door. It is loud.
By the way, so I have a 2-year-old daughter, and her current favorite song is our theme song for the podcast.
Ooh, nice.
She comes over to me, I don't know, every couple of days and says, "Daddy, can you play the train video?" Can you play the Packers train? That's what she wants.
Oh, the Packers train.
So then I pull up one of our videos and just play the intro to it. I love it. This is on brand.
It's loud.
South, you can.
It is. I'm not kidding. It's the closest it gets is I think 90 feet away. It's it's a run to first base to touch the train if you wanted to.
So this just makes me.
By.
This just makes me think that we need a train whistle or a train sound effect for our podcast.
That's not bad.
You need to find some excuses.
I'm gonna
play the train whistle.
I'm gonna take my microphone that I have. One of the microphones I have is like the older ones that you can put the weather caps on them and like all that to preserve the integrity in the wind. And maybe I'll just run out there once and just stick it out there, and we get the actual train noise, and we can put it into the show.
Do it. We need that
because it comes at like 9:30 or 11:30, sometimes 1:30 in the morning. But I can do that. I still have that recorder. So, all right,
I love it.
the train's going.
Oh, I just finally got this pulled up too. I was gonna.
Oh,
I'm still gonna do it.
all right.
Since I went through the work of getting this. All right.
Okay.
There. Now I can actually share the picture full screen. This is what
There
I
we go.
wanted to have on screen while that train was going by.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Listen, we stayed on track somehow. How are we up to 13 on YouTube? That's crazy. That is crazy. You guys
Twitter
just
is
sitting here
still-
chilling.
Twitter's still blowing YouTube out of the water.
It is.
All right.
Where are we going? I mean, let's go down the line now. Since I know we had the tier 1 to tier 2 conversation.
Here's the thing. So
Okay.
I do think there's a gap. Now Notre Dame was on bye this week.
They were.
Iowa annihilated the Badgers.
Yes.
I think I need to. What's Iowa's record? Iowa 6-3.
Yes.
So they're 6-3.
They are indeed.
Okay. But we have a swath of teams here with unacceptable losses.
I will say, Illinois didn't
have
lose
to
to
do
the Southern team at least.
That's true.
They didn't do that.
Did lose to Minnesota.
They did lose to a bad team, but they didn't lose to a Southern team, Kansas State. Okay?
Yeah, Kansas.
Kansas State, what's going on? Nebraska.
I think this is where my desire to promote BYU has come from, because they are 3-0 against the South. They are
That's
right
fair.
now the only
Notre Dame's 2-0 against the South.
they're one of 2 Big 12 teams that I'm not 3 Big 12 teams that I'm not annoyed with at the moment. The others would be Colorado and Cincinnati.
That's fair.
So, all right.
The teams who are on bye. The teams who are on bye don't bother me right now.
Right.
That's really good.
So Cincinnati, let me see here. Where's
I don't know.
Cincinnati's 3-1 against the South. BYU, as I mentioned a billion times, is
Golly.
3-0 against the South. And
I will say Pitt is 3-1
Colorado,
against the South.
3-0 against the South.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm pleased with those 3 teams.
Sure.
Colorado, they were on bye this week, so we can't move them up.
Sure.
Um,
I mean, you
me,
can't
though-
move them up a tier, but you could definitely move them ahead of the tier that they're in. Wow, that's tough. Colorado, Nebraska, they've played, and Nebraska boat raced them.
So I
But-
think this is correct. Now I moved. So Colorado
Yeah, I
doesn't
don't mind
move
this.
on their bye week, but these 3 teams all drop below Colorado.
I
and
agree.
Into the next tier below.
Yes.
And I think so. Here's the thing: we already had Washington in tier 4. They beat a Southern
they
team.
did.
I'm gonna go ahead and promote them off. Of
I
that.
think they
we'll
should
just
be
put them-
promoted. Yeah.
I think we'll just put them at the top of tier 3.
I think that's
Kansas
fine.
State, I think has been playing significantly better than Nebraska the last few weeks. I think Nebraska belongs below Illinois and Kansas State, but this is to me,
I'm good
this
with
is our
this.
clear and obvious tier 3.
I like
And
it.
maybe somebody else belongs in there. I mean, we could have a conversation
Potentially.
about Minnesota or something.
Yeah, that's probably the team you have the conversation about. Pitt, listen. Listen, the playoff, that was fun, wasn't it? We'll be seeing you.
1 week.
That's
one
it.
week of talking about Pitt winning the ACC.
That's it. We'll be seeing you.
I mean, how far do we?
I don't know. They're probably not going that far. They are going below Minnesota at this point. Michigan
I want to put them
State.
below Michigan State, but Michigan State has dropped 2 in a row.
Yeah, they're not trending. I think that's fine.
They're trending in a sickly manner. They started off poor.
Right.
They're playing poor right now. They were hot for a minute. Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't love it.
For being the only Big Ten team in week 1 to drop a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the heck, Minnesota? Good job.
They got off the mat, I will say. I
2-1
despise
in the
them.
South. I'll take that.
I despise them. I despise their head coach, but good for them for getting off the mat. Like losing to North Carolina at home that's rough. Or no, was that home?
So
I don't remember.
let me ask you this question.
But anyway, it was bad.
Think back in your mind to the Michigan-Minnesota game. Especially
Minnesota should have won the game. Yes, I remember.
So
they're taking points off the board.
The only reason Minnesota is ranked below Michigan right now is because they lost to Michigan. But are we actually going to hold the end of that game against Minnesota? What do you think? Make a case one way or the other for me.
Let's see. Minnesota. I'm trying to
relay it for the folks who are forgetting what happened.
Oh, so what was it? They take touchdown off the board, or that's not it. Well, the onside kick, fake onside kick offsides nonsense. That happened, I believe, JJ, if I'm correct, the same week that the we're not giving Virginia Tech the Hail Mary. I believe that was Friday night, and then the Minnesota onside kick was the next day. And you could just you feel it in your brain going, oh, they're protecting the ranked teams right now. This is nonsense. Because they never showed the replay. At least on the broadcast, they never showed the replay of the onside kick where somebody was supposedly offsides. So I think it was nonsense. I think Minnesota should have had the ball. They should have been going down the field. And at the very least, we're going to OT.
So Michigan at the start of the fourth quarter is leading 24-3.
Yeah, it was like, oh, it's done.
Minnesota puts up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
And they only allow a field goal, so they are down 24-27. There's a minute and 30 some odd seconds remaining in the game.
Yep. Something like that.
They score their 3rd touchdown. They onside kick it and recover it. Ref calls offsides. This is not something that
it's like
reviewable.
It's like the refs from the Miami Virginia Tech game flew to that game the next day. Like seriously, I am blown away that nobody. I don't think they said anything in the broadcast either. They were just like, "Yep, offsides." That you can't. That's going to end the game. Blah blah blah. And it's kind of like, okay, we'll show the replay.
So,
like crickets, like nothing about the replay at all.
So people go watch. They go, later go watch the actual replay. There's nobody offsides. This is not a penalty. And the very next day, the Big Ten changes the rules and insists that you have to have one of the officials standing in a certain position monitoring whether people are offsides or not on offside. Onside kick recovery. Do we hold this loss against Minnesota? I say it's time to move Minnesota ahead of Michigan. They have a better record. They have a much better record against the South. And I mean, in my heart, and what I think.
Who are their Southern wins?
There's. Let me read it off here.
Oh, okay.
It's their Southern wins are North Carolina. No, they lost to North Carolina. That's their loss.
Right.
They lost 17-19 in week 1.
They beat USC. That's
USC 24-17 and UCLA 21-17.
Okay. Doesn't Michigan have a win over USC?
Michigan has, yes, they do.
So they should be 1-1 against the South. Because they lost to Texas. They did beat USC. There's not anybody else on there, right? Yeah, no. Not from the South, anyway.
Yeah,
they did lose to Washington, but that is fair and just.
I'm supposed to only mark losses to the South.
Oh. Gotcha.
Okay, so they have 4 losses.
They do.
One of which is to a Southern team.
And 5-4 Michigan. Still might I add, has Indiana and Ohio State on the schedule. So, bowl game. They're going to have to beat Maryland, I think. I don't know. Anyway.
Minnesota has one more win than Michigan and one more Southern win over Michigan. Chat. Minnesota.
I'm fine with it.
Who's higher?
I'm fine with it. I despise both of these teams. Whoever's ahead of the other, whatever. I'm fine with it. It works for me. Pitt, I don't think we move. We talked about that. Bad loss, though.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad loss. I'm just not sure who moved behind. Like maybe Cincy, and like Cincy didn't play this week, but I'm
who didn't? Cincy, Rutgers didn't play.
West Virginia didn't play. A lot of teams didn't play. Boston College didn't play.
BC. Oh, good. We can talk about Syracuse. They played.
So, congrats Syracuse on beating Virginia Tech. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Appreciate you representing.
Yep.
Let me see here. So, okay, this is Syracuse game.
I will say, talk about Kyle McCord, the tale of two cities.
Well, they were down 18 points.
I know. That was when
halftime they were down 3-14. Yeah. And then Kyle McCord woke up, and
that game was a tale of two cities.
Yeah, so they tied the game with just 29 seconds left in regulation. And then LeQuint Allen, their running back, I thought had himself a game.
Oh, yeah.
2 touchdowns. Kind of just having his way in the second half. And then the defense making a stand when you really needed it. Taking the ball away. Forcing a fumble in overtime. But LeQuint Allen had 129 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, including 1 in overtime. Kyle McCord only played half of the game. I mean, he was there the whole game, but he didn't do anything in the first half.
Yeah.
So
at the end of the first half, there was like, oh, the Linsanity run for McCord is over. That's what I saw a lot of tweets essentially saying. One of them actually said that. And, just pulled them off the mat. And Syracuse decided, JJ, that the two Syracuses that we see, we're going to see them in the same game.
Show up in the same game.
Yeah, we're going to see them in the same game now. So Syracuse is now they're creating a new meta with how they play. They're going to say, we're going to do this by half. I can't wait to see them do it by quarter. I don't know which way it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be bad first, good second, or vice versa. But maybe we'll see that in a game down the stretch. They're genuinely insane. If you're a fan and you went to the school and like you've been a fan, it must be. You must have a good time. You must have some fun on some Saturdays, and also just utter devastation and frustration on Saturday. Like that's how it goes for you.
Yeah, what's the spring game for Syracuse? Like the orange and white game,
It's probably something like that. Yeah.
I would like to see so their team is the Syracuse orange. I'd like to see the Syracuse orange and the Syracuse white, or whatever their alternate color is.
Yeah.
Both be in the playoffs. Just have both teams.
Oh my gosh.
I'd like to see them play themselves, frankly.
Now that's interesting. Can we have that a bowl game?
You know that.
Can we make that a bowl game? They're in the bowl. They've qualified. We need Syracuse versus Syracuse in a bowl game.
The final score of that game would be 69-3, because it would be good Syracuse versus bad Syracuse.
But it's not just like there's a good version. The good players can be bad. Bad play. Like, I don't know if it's 69-3. Right. I think it could be. There could be a lot of directions we could go with that game.
You got to make the players self-select. Like, hey, are you feeling like an idiot or a good player right now?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be that would be quite the experiment. And we just, that's the bowl game we need. Syracuse v. Syracuse. Okay.
Now, this was not the most interesting, crazy game of the week. Let's talk Northwestern Purdue. This
I mean,
is
it was a
game
barn
we have
burner
been-
at least.
We
A little
have been
bit.
looking forward to this all year.
Yeah.
All right, this was the Tank Bowl. Congratulations, Northwestern. You do not have to be in the Purdue tier anymore.
That's right.
You get to graduate to tier
best
5
part-
or maybe tier 6.
The best part is Purdue stays in the Purdue tier for losing.
And the world is healing.
Yeah, we're healing. Nature's healing. Purdue's in the Purdue tier. Northwestern graduates. They get to join Maryland and Utah. We can't move because, as a lot of teams, nobody's playing this week. What's going
Nobody
on?
played this week, and the teams that did play this week wish they hadn't because they all
Yeah,
lost.
exactly. It's just not a good week to play, unless you're Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, Iowa, Washington, Minnesota. Unfortunately, but like anyone else, Northwestern Purdue, they played a game. I think they both would have rather not played a game, to be honest.
I mean, you don't think that Northwestern wanted to climb out of the Purdue tier?
Yeah, maybe there was that motivation. I did hear a coach after the game say that we just didn't want to be in the Purdue tier. It's a big win for us. For legal reasons, he did not say that, but I'm imagining he did. So yeah, it was the Sickos Committee game of the week, as I mentioned. I knew it would be like that. There was no other game they were going to pick. Yeah, I know.
Speaking
That's what I thought of.
What's our Sickos Committee game of the week next week?
Oh, it's
Virginia Pitt.
I mean, for northern teams, yes, but I think I know what it is. I have to check, but I'm pretty sure it's.
I mean, Bama Vandy was the Sickos game of the year.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's Oh man, I mean, Syracuse does play BC. That's pretty good.
I thought they already played each other. That'll be a fun one.
That will be
That'll
good.
be a fun one.
I'm trying to think.
Syracuse BC sounds like the exact kind of game that I'm going to be just thrilled that it happened and also won't watch.
I know what it is. It's got to be Oklahoma State and TCU. Like, who's watching that? Like, seriously.
I don't know.
Who's
Just
watching
make it a
that?
three-way game and put Florida State in as well.
Yeah. Like, it has to be that game.
We need a triangular field.
South Carolina Vanderbilt's interesting. That could be a Sickos game too. Actually,
I mean, give me Vandy in that one.
they are at home,
Ironically,
so
I think
they are at home.
Vanderbilt will win that one.
They're
I'd be
actually
disappointed
underdogs.
if they don't.
They're actually underdogs. So, Anyway, okay.
So
Wait,
we do have to
Kansas
talk
State,
about
Nebraska.
this Nebraska UCLA game.
Yeah, probably.
I don't really want to. UCLA was up early and then kind of just kept the momentum throughout the whole game. Nebraska did kind of mount a comeback
Yeah.
toward the end, but then just the air just went out of the stadium like a balloon. So, and it was frustrating because UCLA is not good. And I didn't even think they played that great of a game. So like their quarterback Ethan Garbers was 17 of 25 for 200 yards,
Yeah.
and then he had a 57 or 55 yard run, and that was kind of the only interesting thing that they did the whole game. They had a pick six in the second half, but that was it. But Nebraska just came out flat. Their offense has just deflated the last few weeks. They came out firing on all cylinders against Ohio State, and they clearly were excited to be there.
Yeah.
But then I thought coaching was a problem because you can't go to Ohio State
No.
and play it safe and play conservative and kick field goals. You can't do that. You got to take a leaf out of Purdue's playbook and punch so that when the big scary team you're playing against finally wakes up and starts stringing
Yeah.
together some drives to put up some points, it's too late. And hey, congrats on scoring 21 points, but you're already down 40, and so it didn't make a difference. That's how you have to beat them.
So here's Nebraska almost pulled a late season Green Bay Packers from last year. The problem is they didn't win the tough game. Right? They played the tough game close, and then they go, oh, let's let down versus a team we should absolutely defeat at home. Yeah, there's just not oh man. You still Nebraska over Minnesota right now?
Nebraska over Minnesota. I do. I
Okay.
really hope Nebraska turns this around. Like right now, I still think that their resume is stronger than Minnesota's.
Yeah.
But no question which team is trending the right way and which
Right.
team is trending the wrong way. So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, it is completely plausible that a week from now, well, does Minnesota play next week? They are off. No,
Okay.
this week they play Rutgers and then they have their bye week.
Then
So
they're off. Okay.
depending on how they play against Rutgers, it's entirely possible that they are, that they leapfrog ahead of even Kansas State or maybe just Nebraska or Illinois. But
Yeah, I think we got to be on watch there. I think the only thing left other than potentially talking Wisconsin, Iowa is a question. Do you think the top 3 in Tier 4 are markedly better than the bottom 8 in Tier 4?
top 3 and no, I figure we will chop Tier 4 into something. I just wasn't sure.
Okay.
how to do it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out because I thought it would be Michigan State, but they're trending the wrong way. I feel like should Syracuse be jumping teams after the win this week? I know the teams I've been projecting them to jump did not play.
It's probably time
But
for Syracuse.
3-1 versus the South. If
ahead
we're
of
using that,
West Virginia.
yeah, I think they
probably
got to at
belong
least.
here.
Yeah, I think they at least.
They're
leave those
certainly
two.
not better than Cincy.
Yeah.
And then, but Cincy and Rutgers again, these are two teams that are trending in opposite directions. Like, so neither one of them played. We can't move them.
Right.
But if they come out of their bye week and nothing changes, Cincy's probably going to leapfrog Rutgers.
Good evening.
So
Too old for this. How are you?
Too old for this, my guy. So happy.
It's a shame that Too old for this wasn't here for the actual train passing by.
Yeah,
Could have used that
I missed
moment
it,
to
man.
really derail
Was
the
that
show.
It was only like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, but
10 minutes ago. Okay, so the chop off changed my name to Too Late for this.
that's good. That's good.
So
I just don't know
there's a
where the
cutoff
heck
here.
this is.
It's at least
That's
here.
probably true.
It's at least here. Michigan probably better than Pitt. Now, a week ago, with Pitt's momentum.
Yeah.
Let me check Pitt's schedule again real quick here. So Pitt their resume is that they have beaten Cincinnati, West Virginia, North Carolina on the road, Cal, and Syracuse. Dude, that's a better resume than what Michigan has. Michigan has beaten USC, Minnesota, questionably,
Yeah. Michigan State.
and Michigan State. Pitt has a better record than Michigan does. And
They do. They have a better
you know,
record.
They have one loss to the South, and that's SMU. Michigan has 4 losses, and
do.
one of them is to the South. And their loss to the South was as bad as Pitt's loss to the South.
Was it though?
They got spanked by Texas
They did,
12
but
to
like
31.
they did, but as I remind, Pitt is backdooring to lose by 23. They were getting destroyed in that game. It was worse than the final score.
But again,
It was.
I mean,
And I think
that
like
happens sometimes. Michigan has had multiple
I get
games
it.
like that. Washington was like that. Texas was like that.
Yeah. I get where you're going because you're saying the resume, and that's fine, and that's a fair way to do it. So if you want to do it, that is, it's justified.
So
But
you're making the neutral field argument of
I
who would
am.
win, Michigan
I
versus
am.
Pitt.
I think I am in that regard, but I am saying that I agree with what you're saying about justifiably moving them ahead of Michigan. So I can understand that while also committing to my neutral field who's winning that football game tomorrow if they play it. I just don't think Pitt wins that game. I really don't.
I do think it's really close, and I do kind of want to give the edge to 3-1 versus the South versus.
That's
1-1
fair.
versus the South.
That is fair.
I am going to move Pitt ahead of Michigan, but this
Okay.
makes me think. There's not a huge gap between Michigan and Michigan State. There's also probably not a huge gap between Michigan State and Rutgers, Cincy.
No.
It just makes me question whether Syracuse does belong in Tier 4. They probably do.
I think they do because I look at Tier 5 and I go, ugh. Where Syracuse, I'm only doing that half the time, right? Half the time, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, nice. And the others, I'm looking at that tier like, oh, that's gross.
I think this is probably about right. And if we
so.
say we like where this is, then that saves us from needing to talk about the Iowa State game. It also saves us from needing to talk about the Iowa-Wisconsin game.
My goodness.
I mean, do you want to talk about Iowa-Wisconsin?
Not really. I mean, blowout, mistakes, just a boat race of the highest order. No, probably an order of magnitude down from SMU over Pitt. So that's all I'll say.
Yeah.
The SMU Pitt was utter domination. And then Pitt made it look more reasonable. And then Iowa was, okay, hold on. Indiana's up there too. That was, holy smokes, Michigan State. The ball started rolling down the hill and it just kept going. And they couldn't stop it.
We have back-to-back weeks of Michigan State failing to deliver in games against teams that either you or I hate.
Yeah. Yep.
Or we could just say teams that you hate.
Is it next? Is Indiana Michigan this week? It's next week, right? It's not this week.
No, that's not. Yes, Indiana Michigan is this week. Yes.
It is this week. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in this scenario, you're rooting for the worst team. From my eyes, I'll be rooting for the team who is not as good to bring people down a peg. Just because that's where I sit in terms of how I feel about Indiana. But again, a really good opportunity for Indiana to show like that, the high scoring stuff they're doing, right? The points they're putting up on the board against the defense that will more often than not make you earn it. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for it.
It is interesting that Ohio State still has Michigan and Indiana on the schedule yet.
Yeah. And they've had Oregon, Texas already as well. And when USC came to town, they were ranked. It's crazy.
Right.
It's
Speaking
crazy
of USC,
that schedule.
How sick do USC fans have to feel after that Washington loss?
Well, I think they've been feeling sick for a while, right? Like they were, when you talk about, again, that we're talking about a Southern team, but they're in the Big Ten, right? There's a lot of Big Ten teams in here. You come out, right? For USC, you come out and you beat LSU, which I did not think was going to happen. I thought for sure, okay, LSU opening, this is USC. They're going to show they're more physical. They're going to play. But no, USC comes out and beats them, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute. USC's got some juice, perhaps, and we're moving in the right direction. And then, man, Michigan game is like, okay, well, that's not an easy one. It probably should have had that, honestly. They had their chances to take that, even though they struggled in the first half. And it's just spiraled. Minnesota can't lose that. Had Penn State in the blender for 3 quarters and didn't finish the job. Boy,
They're like a secretly
they're the Saints.
good bad team.
They're the Saints.
I like
Hot start.
Yeah.
Hot start, and it's been nothing but losses other than beating Rutgers.
Now it's a bunch of really close losses.
Yeah, it's like when the Saints are at their best, they're a good. What'd you say? Good bad good team. Good bad. I don't remember.
They're a
what you said.
secretly bad. They're a secretly good bad team.
Yeah, I think it's like the Saints. That's yeah. It's tough. You're not getting weeks off. You're not playing Arizona. We're not playing. We're not playing like Colorado. Like we're not doing that. So like,
I mean,
Colorado's
better than USC this year.
This year, yeah. Last year when they had Caleb Wright, they could just score more points than Colorado and win the game. Like that was, they could do that.
This was a case of Washington wanting the win much more than USC.
Yes, and you know what? Credit to them. Good for them.
Washington's defense just played lights out.
I thought
Carson Bruner, their linebacker, had 2 interceptions. They got multiple fourth down stops, really including game-winning fourth down stop on the 1 yard line in a game that they won by 5 points.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Shh. I don't know about that.
But that was they did it though. So
yeah.
Washington
Jonah Coleman, running back for Washington.
Nice. Yep.
Welcome to the North. 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was basically the entire offense.
Yep. It was. Here's what I will say, right? Because I look. You start you coming into the season. You're like, okay, yeah. Michigan lost a lot of guys. Washington lost a lot of guys and a head coach. And Michigan lost their head coach. So like both teams losing a ton, and you're like, I just don't. It's going to be rough for both of them. It definitely has been rough. I actually thought it would be rougher for Washington to this point than it has been. I'm give them a lot of credit. I did not think they were going to beat Michigan, and they've they hung with Indiana a decent bit for a lot of that game. Clearly they're not in their tier, so good on them for that. Like they're battling out there, and I was wondering if Washington was going to reach a bowl game. I thought that there was.
Well, that's the next conversation I want to have with you.
Okay, perfect.
So Washington right now is at 5 wins, so they need one more to make the bowl, right?
Yeah, I need to see the.
So here's their 3 remaining games.
No, they're going to do it.
3 remaining games.
They got it.
They have to play at Penn State.
They do.
They play UCLA at home, and they have to play at Oregon.
Yeah.
So, I kind of think their only real shot at making a bowl is UCLA. So they have to win that game.
I think they will. I think they will win that.
Will.
I do. I will say if the Penn State game was at home for them, I think that could be really interesting.
I don't know that Penn State will travel well to Washington.
Yeah, and Washington plays tougher than USC. And in USC, they had to travel out there, and USC pushed them to the brink. So I do think it would be very interesting if Penn State had to go to Washington. Washington's going to Happy Valley.
Don't love it. I think that's more like toss-up.
Yes, but I do think the travel for Washington, it's going to be tougher. But this is your last travel. It's and then got to go back play UCLA. You have the bye week after that, and then it's Oregon. So we say Washington, yes, bowl eligible. Now,
yes. USC is at 4 and 5 right now. Here's their 3 remaining games. They got Nebraska at home. They better win that one.
I don't think they will.
They're at UCLA.
They better win that.
They better win that.
Yep.
But their final game is Notre Dame at home.
Notre Dame. Here's what I will say.
Do they get 2
Here's what I will
out
say.
of that 3-game slate? I think Washington has the much tougher schedule there, but they already have one more win.
Listen, I think if if USC can conjure something out of themselves, like they did early in the season, I think they can actually win all of them. I think they've the potential to win all of them. Recent results and history would tell me that they win one of them and they don't make a bowl game, right? Like they
It should be hilarious.
it would honestly
I'd be
no.
so
This is what it's gonna be. They're gonna beat Nebraska. They're going to. Okay, I'm gonna call it now. They're gonna beat Nebraska. Okay. But they're going to lose to UCLA, a game they should not lose.
yeah.
And then Notre Dame is going to beat them by like
I think you're
3.
right. I think that's going to happen.
I think that's what's going to
that's
happen.
gonna
Because
Yeah,
it's just like it.
I
It's like,
agree.
oh, the bowl game is within reach. We have beaten Nebraska. We can do this. And then it's heartbreak to UCLA, and then they lose by a field goal or something to Notre Dame. Like Notre Dame should not be, it's a Notre Dame messing around because they need to make the playoff, but and USC gives them their best shot, but they're going to lose by a field goal. That's what we're calling it right now. USC does not make a bowl game, and it's going to be in the most heartbreaking fashion possible. They're gonna taste it for 2 weeks, and they're gonna lose 2 close games or something like that.
Now,
It's gonna be
here's
devastating.
Here's the other conversation.
Okay.
Is anybody going to watch any non-playoff bowl games this year? I mean, are we going to have any?
I'll probably watch
offensive games at all?
Illinois. I'll probably watch Illinois' one, but other than that, I don't know. I think that it's going to be tougher sell, right? You've got 12 teams in the playoff. Maybe you're watching some of the teams that were the bubble ones in the bowl game just to see if they kind of finish the season strong or not. But I do think it's going to be less exciting because you don't have any of the New Year's Six that are like, oh, they're all in the playoff, all of them. So yeah, it's going to be different. Like what are we going to have that's going to kind of headline it? Holiday probably headlines as one of the top 5. Citrus, Outback, or is that the same thing? Maybe it is.
No, I don't think they're.
They aren't the same? Okay, so then probably those 2, Holiday. I mean, Pinstripe's cool because it's at Yankee Stadium. That's sick. Trying to think what else. Music City could be one that's, I guess, kind of exciting. The Idaho Potato, always good. But
there's
it's not
new,
gonna be.
There's a new proposal, or maybe it actually is happening, that going forward on an every year basis now, the New Year's Six bowls are going to be linked to specific games again. So
Yeah.
the Rose Bowl is always going to be the Big Ten winner
Sure.
first round playoff game, and it's going to be
That makes
obviously
sense.
at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. That makes sense now
I
since
think-
some Pac-12 teams have joined. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So the Big 12 probably they get Cotton, or are they going to get Fiesta?
Now I don't remember. I think because it's either the Cotton or the Peach Bowl that's going to be the SEC.
Right. I would assume Peach Bowl goes SEC and Orange Bowl goes ACC.
Right.
And then, yeah, it's just whether or not Big 12.
So
I
Fiesta's
imagine Big 12 is going to want
probably-
Fiesta, right?
Right.
But then that means a Cotton Bowl is a semifinal game.
Well, the Sugar Bowl, Cotton and Sugar.
Cotton Sugar would be your semifinals. I mean, the Sugar Bowl probably would love to have a semifinal every year. Maybe the Big 12 rotates. Maybe the SEC and ACC rotate with the Sugar Bowl. But the Rose Bowl is always a quarter.
Just freaking, I don't want the Fiesta Bowl to be one of the semifinals anymore. Like the Cotton Bowl and the Sugar Bowl are great semifinal
We can
games.
have that.
I'm so sick of the Fiesta Bowl.
I mean, I like the venue for the Fiesta Bowl.
I just feel like the game is never good. But I mean, maybe it's.
But the
maybe it's
problem,
just-
because right, the Fiesta Bowl is the Fiesta Bowl always. Maybe they haven't. Maybe not recently. No, it seems like the Cotton Bowl has always had now the Group of 5 team recently, right? Last 2 years.
the Cotton Bowl. Well, last year.
Or
the
no,
Cotton
last
Bowl
year it was-
Georgia and whoever they played.
I thought Georgia Florida State orange.
Maybe. 2 years ago, the Cotton Bowl was Georgia Ohio State, and it was a semifinal game.
Right.
And it was,
Right.
That was, I mean, really, that was the de facto national championship game. And then the next week, Georgia dog walked TCU 99-0 or whatever.
I do think Tulane and USC played Cotton Bowl once, right? I think. Oh,
That
last year
even-
was Oregon Liberty, wasn't it?
Last
Fiesta,
year was
right?
Oregon Liberty. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had. So last year's. I think last year the Fiesta Bowl was not a playoff game. The most recent Fiesta Bowl was TCU Michigan.
Oh, that was a playoff game. But last year it wasn't, is what you're saying. Yeah, Fiesta Bowl last year was Oregon and Liberty. Yeah, that was not a. And the Cotton Bowl was Missouri Ohio State last year. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't watch, and the Ohio State didn't come. Ohio State didn't. Fans didn't watch. Nobody cared about that game.
Right. It's not a playoff game, so that's fair.
So last year it was Oregon Liberty. Previous year was TCU Michigan. Before that, you had 2 times it was not a playoff game, which was Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, Iowa State,
Oregon. Yeah, I remember that
and
one
then
very
the year
vividly.
before that was Clemson, Ohio State.
Oh, that one.
And then before
I know
that, you had
that
2
game.
snoozers, LSU, UCF, and Penn State, Washington.
I know that Clemson Ohio State game.
Well, we had back-to-back
It
Clemson,
would-
Ohio State Fiesta
I would-
Bowls,
I want to make
2016,
sure
2019.
everybody understands that Justin Ross fumbled. Okay? This podcast believes that Justin Ross fumbled. That is a garbage call forever. Okay? Garbage.
Well, and yeah,
That
I'm
was
not going to relitigate that. There were a number of things
yeah.
called in that game
That's fair.
that should not have been called, but whatever. I'm not going to relitigate it.
Okay.
But yeah,
That was not good.
it was not good. That was a low moment for the college football playoffs. We'll just say that.
Yeah. Yep. It's true.
We are on to a new era. It is no longer
Yes.
the 14 playoffs. It's the 12-team playoffs. New stories to be written. We are past the 2-hour mark on the live stream. We still have basically everybody tuned in. The number is basically still steady. It's crazy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Probably time for us to head out of here. I think
Yep.
I won't play the song this week, but I'm going to try and get a shorter version of the song, get like a 30-second
There you
that
go.
we can play as the outro going forward.
I like it.
And but you know what we can do though?
What's that?
We can still send this out the right way.
I agree.
Jake,
Yes.
I'm grateful to everybody who tuned in.
Me too. Thank you all.
We're gonna have this moment of solemnness.
And reverence.
In the words of the late great Mr. Ed Policy. Go Pack Go.
I woke up one morning, just a regular schmuck.